How on earth does a territory larger than the continental United States, with all its incredible diversity, somehow become a single, unified country? It really seems like it should be impossible. And yet, against all odds, Brazil did just that. So let's dive into the epic 500 years story of how this nation was forged.
You know, the great Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa once asked about his country's epic sea voyages, was it worth it? Everything is worth it if the soul is not small. And that question, it just hangs over Brazil's entire history. It frames this whole thing as a monumental and often very painful quest to build a nation from a place that, honestly, was never meant to be one.
And to really get Brazil, you have to start right there, with that one crucial fact. It was never designed to be a nation. Not at all. From its very first day, it was conceived as a commercial project, a massive resource designed to do one thing: make the Portuguese Empire rich.
The logic behind all this was pure, uncut mercantilism. The entire colonial system was this top-down structure where every bit of economic activity, the whole social pyramid, was all geared towards a single goal: sending wealth back to Portugal. It was a one-way street. Brazil was the supplier, Portugal cashed the checks.
This phrase on the screen, it perfectly sums up 3 centuries of history. It says, crescente presença dos interesses mercantis do Estado Português na América do Sul. And what that really means is an increasing presence of the mercantile interests of the Portuguese state in South America. Every law, every new town, every decision was about tightening that commercial grip, just making sure the profits kept flowing back to Europe.
So, if Brazil was just a big money-making project, how did it ever become a country? Well, its path to independence was completely unique in the Americas. I mean, there were no huge revolutionary wars for liberation like you saw with its neighbors or in the United States. In a lot of ways, Brazil kind of stumbled into becoming a nation, almost by accident.
Just take a look at this timeline. Independence wasn't some single violent event. It was this slow, almost negotiated process that kicked off with something that had never happened before in history. In 1808, as Napoleon was marching into Portugal, the entire Portuguese royal court, we're talking the king, the government, the treasury, the whole shebang, fled to their colony, Brazil.
And this leads to an absolutely critical concept historians call a interiorização da metrópole, or the internalization of the metropole. Think about what this means. For the first and only time in history, a European empire was actually being ruled from its colony. The center of power physically moved to Rio de Janeiro. This just completely rewired the whole relationship. Suddenly, Brazil wasn't just a colony anymore. It was the beating heart of the empire. After that, independence wasn't just possible, it was basically inevitable.
But okay, independence is one thing. Staying together as one country is a whole different ballgame. The most dangerous, nail-biting period in Brazil's history came right after that, during the Regency of the 1830s. The brand new nation was right on the verge of complete collapse, threatening to just shatter into a dozen smaller countries.
This visual here just captures that core conflict perfectly. It's a total tug-of-war. On one side, you have these powerful forças centrífugas, these centrifugal forces, kind of like the arrows pushing outward, representing all these regional revolts that wanted to break away. And on the other side, you have the forças centrípeta, the centripetal forces, like a chain being pulled tight as the elites in Rio de Janeiro desperately tried to hold the country together with a strong central government.
So how was the stalemate broken? Well, through something called the Regresso Conservador, the conservative return. A political faction just brutally crushed those provincial revolts and centralized all the power. And right here, we see a core theme of Brazil's story really start to emerge. The state was built not through agreement, but through force. Unity was violently hammered together by what one historian called the gears of regression. A pretty dark image, right? A machine designed to eliminate dissent just to hold the nation together.
And this pattern, this dynamic of breaking things apart and then forcing them back together, it just keeps going, hammering its way into the turbulent 20th century. After the monarchy fell in 1889, Brazil's story becomes this series of really dramatic breaks, almost like competing national projects that rise and fall in these abrupt, jarring cycles of power.
First up, you had the República do Café, which is, pretty much exactly what it sounds like, the Republic of Coffee. From 1889 all the way to 1930, the country was basically run like a private club for the powerful coffee-growing elites of São Paulo and Minas Gerais. The whole system was designed to protect their economic interests above everything else.
But that system gets completely shattered in 1930 by Getulio Vargas. His rise was a radical shift, and echoing that theme we just talked about, he crushed the regional oligarchies and launched a totally new national project, this one focused on state-led industrialization. It was authoritarian, it was nationalist, and it completely remade the Brazilian state from the ground up.
And then, another massive rupture. In 1964, the military seized power, kicking off a 21-year dictatorship. This regime doubled down on state intervention in the economy, and it produced what they called an economic miracle. But it came alongside severe political repression and skyrocketing inequality. It was just another vision for Brazil, imposed from the top down, continuing that long historical pattern.
Okay, so that roller coaster brings us pretty much into the modern era. After the military regime finally fell in 1985, Brazil started its longest and most stable democratic period, which we call the New Republic. But the story of forging this nation? Oh, it is far from over.
The New Republic has seen some incredible wins, for sure. I mean, from finally taming hyperinflation to making huge strides against poverty, but it also faces these massive ongoing challenges. The deep, historic roots of inequality, intense political polarization, and just the constant work of trying to strengthen its democratic institutions. This is really just the latest chapter in that long, long struggle to define what Brazil is.
So after 500 years of being a commercial project, an inside-out empire, and a nation forged through conflict and rupture, we're left with this one big question. Is the forging of Brazil finally complete? Or is this vast, complex, incredible nation still under construction? The answer to that is what will define its next chapter.